You won't believe how people were treated in medieval prisons. Some were left for days without food, forgotten in the dark like they never existed. But starvation was just the beginning. What made medieval imprisonment truly terrifying wasn't just the physical pain, it was the loss of identity. Cold, damp stone walls, biting iron chains, rats scurrying through filth, and a silence so heavy it screamed louder than any torture device. No light, no names, no hope, just a slow, terrifying unraveling of the human mind. This wasn't myth or legend, it was reality. Today we uncover the true horror behind castle walls, the hunger, the torment, the isolation, and the cruel psychological games designed to break even the strongest souls. Welcome to the nightmare of being a prisoner in a medieval castle. Sometimes the nightmare of being a prisoner in a medieval castle wasn't just legend, it was someone's life. And in rare cases, that life became a chilling story passed down through centuries. Take the infamous story of Gilles de Rais, once a celebrated war hero and companion of Joan of Arc. Accused of horrific crimes, he was dragged into a castle dungeon where he faced days of brutal interrogation before being executed in 1440. His fall from nobility to chained prisoner is a brutal reminder. Status meant nothing once those gates slammed shut. Then there's Margaret of Anjou, the Queen Consort of England, captured and imprisoned in the Tower of London. Though she eventually secured her release, years of captivity broke her spirit. She returned to France, a shadow of the queen she once was, proof that even royalty could be broken by stone walls. Some prisoners did escape, barely. John Gerard, a Jesuit priest in the 1500s, pulled off one of the most daring prison breaks from the Tower of London, climbing down a rope across the moat with injured hands. But his tale is the exception, not the rule. Others simply disappeared. Forgotten names. Skeletons found centuries later in castle basements, some still in shackles. These aren't myths, these are real people, real stories, and they all point to the same truth. Survival was rare, and hope even rarer. Because in a medieval castle, the walls weren't just meant to keep you in, they were built to crush you, body, mind, and soul. And if the stories of those prisoners didn't shake you, wait until you see where they lived. You think you're stepping into a prison, but you're really walking into a nightmare carved in stone. The medieval dungeon wasn't just a cell. It was a machine built to break you. First, the darkness, not the kind behind closed eyes, but a void so absolute it swallows light. No sun, no torches, just shadows thicker than night. Days, weeks, even months in that blackness. Your eyes adjust, your soul doesn't. Then the cold, stone walls trap damp like a sponge. That chill seeps into your bones. Winters were brutal, summers brought no warmth, just stale, moldy air. Breathing felt like inhaling the rot itself. And the smell, human waste, rotting scraps, damp stone, all blending into a thick, choking fog. Sanitation? A myth. No toilets. If you were lucky, a bucket. Most relieved themselves in corners. Filth piled up. Rats thrived. They weren't just pests, they were your bedfellows crawling on your skin as you tried to sleep. Sleep, if you could call it that. No beds, no blankets, maybe a straw mat. Most lay on bare stone. You'd wake with bruises, frostbite, or infections from the bites of your vermin roommates. Light, warmth, comfort, all stripped away. This wasn't just imprisonment, it was erosion of the body, of the mind. And then came the silence. No voices, no footsteps, just the drip of water or scurry of rats. Days blurred, reality bent. Some prisoners heard whispers, saw phantoms, felt madness creep in like the damp. The dungeon didn't just chain your limbs, it shattered your sanity. Welcome to your new home. In the medieval world, imprisonment wasn't about justice. It was about breaking you. Chains weren't just restraints, they were weapons. Bound for days or weeks, prisoners felt metal cut into skin, sores bloom, and helplessness sink deeper with every hour. Torture wasn't always loud, often it was slow, legs pulled tight, arms chained high, bodies trapped in positions that robbed sleep and sanity. Pain came not in screams, but in the silence between movements. Then came the brutal methods, beatings with rods or whips in shadowy chambers, the rack, stretching limbs to the brink, iron collars locked around the neck. In some cells there wasn't even room to sit, just cramped agony pressing in from every side. But the worst part? Not knowing. No sense of time, no end in sight, just the echo of groans, the drip of water, the weight of dread. The chains didn't just hold bodies, they shackled the mind with fear. And yet, not all prisoners broke. Even here, in filth and shadow, some souls refused to surrender. They fought with silence, with breath, with the stubborn spark of the human spirit. In cells built to erase hope, some still clung to it. Because in these castles, being a prisoner wasn't just torture. It was a brutal test, a war between the cold iron of the chains and the fire still burning inside. If the chains didn't break you, the silence did. But worse than the silence was the slow, creeping death that came not from swords or racks, but from something crueler: neglect. Medieval castles didn't need a hangman. Sometimes all it took to kill a prisoner was to forget them. Deep below, prisoners lay chained and broken. No hot meals, no blankets, no clean water. Food, if it came, was once a day: moldy bread, rotten meat, or a bowl of gruel crawling with insects. Days blurred into visions. Some clawed walls, ate rats, drank urine just to survive. In the dark, hunger turned men into monsters. But hunger was only the beginning. Disease thrived in the filth. Cold, wet stone, no toilets, lice and fleas everywhere. Chains tore flesh, wounds festered, infections spread fast. The common cold could kill. Dysentery was rampant. Plague and tuberculosis lurked in every cough, and no one helped. No care, no medicine, no effort to stop the spread. Cells weren't cleaned. Sick weren't separated. One cough could doom a dozen, and no one noticed, because no one cared. You could scream, beg, pray. The stone stayed silent. The guards walked past. You weren't even a name, just another forgotten body fading into the dark. That's what made it horrifying. Sometimes the worst torture came without a single touch. In medieval castles, silence could destroy a man more effectively than chains. The real torment began when everything stopped. No screams, no beatings, just you, alone in darkness. For days, weeks, even months. Some dungeons were built to break the mind. No windows, no light, just cold, pitch-black stone. You couldn't see your hands or tell night from day. The only sound? Your breathing or someone else's, always out of reach. Men cracked fast. They talked to shadows, screamed at walls, clawed at their skin, desperate to feel real. And if the silence didn't break you, the lies might. Fake letters, false trials, staged executions meant to convince you the end was near. It wasn't just cruelty, it was control. Because once the mind breaks, chains aren't needed. The prisoner becomes the prison. And in that darkness, the true horror wasn't dying. It was forgetting you ever lived. For many prisoners, silence wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. If the stone walls didn't break you, the tools inside would. Medieval castle prisons weren't just places of confinement. They were machines of pain, built to extract confessions and send chilling messages. These weren't random punishments. They were systematic, deliberate, and terrifying. These devices weren't meant to kill. Death was too easy. They were crafted to prolong suffering, to twist body and mind until even the strongest will shattered. Start with the rack, a wooden frame with rollers, wrists tied to one end, ankles to the other. Then, crank by crank, the body stretched. Joints popped, muscles tore, bones dislocated, screams echoed off stone, and often they stopped just short of death, only to begin again tomorrow. The Iron Maiden pierced flesh but spared organs. The thumbscrew crushed fingers, the boot shattered feet. The heretic's fork, sharp prongs under chin and chest, turned sleep into agony. These tools weren't hidden, they were trophies. Chambers were built to amplify screams as warnings. Justice, rare. No trial, no proof, just a whisper of heresy. And you were dragged below. In a medieval dungeon, the next knock on your door didn't mean mercy, only pain forged in iron. Think you could pull a Houdini in a medieval dungeon? Think again. Castles weren't just built to keep enemies out. They were designed so no one inside ever escaped. Fortresses within fortresses, these prisons made escape less a challenge and more a death sentence. First, the architecture. You were buried deep. Down twisting staircases behind iron doors into narrow stone corridors. Some cells were vertical pits. No windows, no ladders, just smooth stone and gravity. Then the guards. Armed, loyal, and ruthless. They knew every inch of the place. If you tried to run, they didn't give warnings. Punishment was swift, fingers cut off or worse, and the traps real. Hidden pits, collapsing stairs, false doors. Some cells flooded, others sealed shut if you chose the wrong path. Escape wasn't an option. The walls didn't just contain you, they mocked you. Because in a medieval castle, hope wasn't freedom. It was just another form of torture. But what if you were never tortured? Never interrogated, just forgotten? Some prisoners weren't meant to be freed. No trial, no sentence, just vanished, locked behind stone and iron, erased from the world. Time became the cruelest jailer. Days blurred into months, months into madness. No sunlight, no sound, only dripping water, rats, and your own thoughts echoing louder than screams. Many lost their minds, hallucinations, psychosis, unraveling alone in the dark. If the door ever opened again, they weren't the same. Some were left to rot, their bones crumbling in chains. Others were dragged out years later, paraded, mutilated, or publicly executed. A few were kept alive, deliberately suffering for politics or revenge. And the worst fate? Being buried alive within the walls, sealed in brick tombs, no air, no light, just stone, forever. This wasn't imprisonment, it was erasure, because in a medieval castle, death wasn't the punishment. Sometimes it was the mercy. Today, the castles that once held countless prisoners still stand. Silent witnesses to centuries of suffering. Their crumbling walls, cold cells, and hidden dungeons remind us of a time when freedom was crushed behind iron bars. Walk through places like Edinburgh Castle, Warwick, or the Tower of London, and you'll see the scars, cramped, damp cells, deep pits of darkness, rusted chains still embedded in stone. These relics tell stories of pain, fear, and endless waiting. Archaeologists have found bones, shackles, even graffiti, desperate messages frozen in time. Disease, starvation, and torture weren't legends, they were daily life. Yet amid the horror, some prisoners fought to survive, resist, even escape. The stones may be cold, but the will to live still echoes. These ruins now serve as warnings, reminders of justice gone dark. Which part shocked you the most? Comment below, share your thoughts, and tell us, would you dare enter one of these dungeons? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.